Hey guys, what's going on? It's Brandon. So I just want to document all the craziness that's going on. I've been recording the phone calls of everything. And basically what's occurred is, here's the order of events. Keith Cornett at Corvette Blogger reported that the 2026, all the 2025 ZR1s that are at 3,000 status are going to be bumped to 2026 production. And that's basically General Motors breaching contracts on 3,000 deposit placed contracts on customer orders that are supposed to be built by, around August. Now, if General Motors runs over and they run into August, that's one thing. I can forgive that. It's not a big deal. But to bump orders to 2026 and then they not get built till next spring, that's a different subject. That means that it's breach of contract both on price and on window of time frame of what the customer thought they're getting and the car that the customer thought they were getting. Maybe the customer wants the wall buttons, which I do. Now supposedly General Motors is breaching that contract where they're just not going to build the car as a 2025. But here's where it gets pretty shady, guys, on General Motors' behalf. Now, before I continue, I want to make it clear that I'm completely satisfied with the dealership. The dealership really hasn't done anything wrong per se. They're following orders from General Motors. And okay, so here's how this all went down. So I reach out to my dealership and I say, hey, what status am I at? They said, you're still at 3,000. I said, did you guys receive this letter that Keith Cornett at Corvette Blogger indicates that the dealers are getting? Which, notice, Keith Cornett has not published this letter. He just says it exists from General Motors to the dealers. He says such a letter exists. So they said, no, we don't see anything about anything. Why? What's going on? I said, there's a letter that supposedly exists that says all 2025 orders are getting carried across to 26 and the orders need to be put back in as a 2026. Do you know anything about this? No, we don't know anything about it. I said, okay. Will you reach out to the GM rep and figure out heads or tails what's going on here? Yeah, sure thing. We'll reach out to the GM rep. I said, now do me another favor. If the GM rep says that this is indeed true, get it in writing and do not put in the 2026 order yet. Call me back and let me know what's going on, but get something in writing from GM saying that this 2025 isn't going to be built. I want it in writing because this is breach of contract, guys, potentially. You let me know what you think, even though I'm not really interested in what a lot of the dummies think because people are pretty ignorant. They're going to take GM's side no matter what on this, but it's breach of contract. So if they're just going to rip up a 3,000 order that's been accepted for production with a deposit and a price locked and order number and everything else to the dealership, we didn't twist General Motors' arm to say 3,000 status. General Motors came up with the fact that our car was at 3,000 status. General Motors could have easily kept us at 2,000 or whatever, 1,100, and said, your order isn't being accepted yet. Okay, that's fine. It is what it is. But once you get to 3,000, we have a progressive contract that's now locked and binding. And for General Motors to back out of that, they know it's a big deal. And that's where this game, which they do, in my opinion, on purpose. It's my opinion that it's on purpose. Maybe it's not on purpose, but I believe it is. So here's the game. Here's what General Motors is doing. When a person like myself reaches out to the dealer who has had no correspondence from GM on the subject, nothing's in writing from GM saying that this has occurred. The dealer contacts the dealer rep if the customer requests. So the dealer contacts the dealer rep. The dealer rep then, according to my dealership, the dealer rep told the owner of the dealership last night, you've got to get this thing in before nightfall, before midnight, or else this is all going to fall apart. Now think about this. They didn't even notify the dealership in the first place, and now they're bum rushing the dealership with super urgency that he's got to put in a 2026 order right now, or else my order is going to be completely lost, and I'm not going to get a car at all. So, and that'll be important later when the timeline is these cars don't get built till next spring. That was a total lie on the GM rep's behalf to say that because there's no urgency. The cars aren't going to be built till next spring. The 26s. After New Year's. So early winter next spring. So the dealer reaches out to me this morning after they do this late last night with the dealer rep before midnight. The dealer owner does this with the dealer rep at midnight, before midnight. So the dealer reaches out to me this morning. I had coincidentally this morning already called the Corvette concierge. and talked to a girl who I believe was named Amanda. I could be mistaken, but anyway, talked to somebody there. She was real nice. I was real nice to her. I said, here's the situation. You know, there's these articles on Corvette Blogger and Justin Horsepower Obsessed and GM Authority, and she instantly says, these people have no clue what they're talking about. They report false information all the time. Like, she cut me off to say this, which really blew my mind. And you know, but it is what it is. So she says, what they're saying isn't true. What's your order number on your 2025 3000 status zr1? I gave her the order number. She said, Brandon, your order's still here at 3000. We at GM Corvette Concierge have not heard anything about this, what you're telling us right now. Now think about this for a second. You're telling me that with 300 Corvettes on order and only 60-ish built, the other 240 people haven't called into the Corvette Concierge. Not one person's called in. They don't know about this yet when these articles have been circulating for over a week. That's a little weird. So maybe the girl at General Motors is lying and trying to mislead me to make me think that everything's fine, when in reality, she could see that my 2026 order was already in, and she told me that my 2025 order was still there and active, which it also is. So I don't know one way or the other whether she was misleading me or telling me the truth or whatever, if she had good intent or malicious intent. But the point is, she says, your 2025 order is still here, everything's fine, you're not getting a 2026, don't worry about it. I said, okay, great, good news. So I call up, the dealership then calls me not even 15 minutes later. Hey, Brandon, great news. My sales rep calls me. Hey, Brandon, great news. We've got your order put in as a 2026, so you're going to be getting the bigger brakes and the updated interior, blah, blah, blah. I said, no, that's not what I wanted. I wanted the original 2025 built here by August. What's going on? Or in that ballpark, if it goes into August a little bit, whatever. And at that price, you know, I want that price. What's going on? Oh, well, and then he tells me the story. Our GM owner, or our dealership owner principal, was on the line with the GM rep last night before midnight to get this order put in. Otherwise, your order was going to get completely dropped. So it's a really good thing you called us and let us know what was going on. Did you get anything in writing from General Motors saying that they're the ones who ordered this change? No, but we talked to the dealer rep. So here's the thing, guys. Here's the game. General Motors knows that they're breaching contract. It's my opinion that they've concocted this scheme on purpose where they have Keith Cornett and all these people where ZR1 order customers are going to hear from Keith Cornett and Justin Horsepower Obsessed and all these major news outlets, GM Authority, all these major news outlets of Corvette stuff. The customer calls into the dealership. It's assumed the customer is going to call into the dealership, ask, what's going on? Did you get the letter? The dealership says, no, we didn't get the letter because GM never sent them anything in writing, which is key to this. And then the dealership says, but well, you know what? We'll reach out to the factory rep, or the customer says, reach out to the factory rep. So they do. Factory rep creates false urgency that it's got to be put in right now before midnight, before end of day, or else the order is going to be completely lost. Dealership then puts in the order. So again, dates, guys, this is July 2nd, Wednesday. Yesterday was July 1st. So July 1st is when the dealership received what I believe is a lie from General Motors saying that the order had to be in yesterday. Otherwise, the order is going to be completely lost. Okay, false urgency. It's a deception, a scheme from General Motors so that they're not the ones. They're trying to get out of contract breach charges because that's what they're going to be charged with, is contract breach. You're going to be able to sue them for damages. So the customers will, and the dealers. So the dealer put the order in as a 2026. Dealership calls me, tells me what's going on. Eventually here, General Motors is going to delete the 2025 order. They're going to vanish the 2025 order. And General Motors, if you try to sue them about this whole thing, about breach of contract, there's nothing in writing from General Motors to the dealers saying, change all 2025 orders to 2026 if they're at 3,000 and below. There's nothing in writing. The only thing that was in writing was to supposedly one dealership, which remains unnamed according to Keith Cornett, who doesn't show the actual letter. So there's no documentation of GM providing any orders to any dealers. It's all just hearsay through Keith Cornett, who Justin at Horsepower Obsessed and all these other guys then report, and GM Authority. So and it's quote unquote factual that the orders are being changed to 2026s after customers call into dealers asking what the heck's going on, and the GM reps verbally tell the dealers to go ahead and change the order, GM is then going, in my opinion, this is my opinion, GM is going to say in the courtroom, Your Honor, we never ordered this. There was a new interior and new brakes, and we got a call from the dealer principal late at night, and from what we can tell, it sounds like the customer wanted the 2026, and so we said, sure, we'll give them a 2026 instead of a 2025. That makes our life easier here at GM. That way we can switch over to 2026 sooner. So that, in my opinion, is what General Motors has concocted as a scheme so that they can defend themselves in the courtroom. So I call the dealership back today. I called GM customer support. I create a case number at GM customer support. They say, this isn't anything we can handle. I'm like, well, you're going to document that I have this complaint, if this is going on. And they said, you need to call the dealer again. So I called the dealer again. I said, we need it in writing from the GM rep that GM is the one ordering the 2025 3000 status order number to be destroyed and not honored in the GM system. I want that in writing, that that's GM ordering it and not the Chevrolet store and not myself, the customer. It is GM ordering that, not us. I want it in writing from General Motors. See, he's working on getting that right now from GM. And I have a feeling it's going to be radio silence, and I have a feeling my order number is going to disappear from the system. The 2025 order number is just going to vanish from the system, which I don't give General Motors, and I didn't give the dealership permission to do. And the dealership didn't give General Motors permission to do that. General Motors ordered the dealership that that's what had to occur. Verbally. I want it in writing. And so everyone that I'm reaching out to at General Motors, they're all saying that they don't know anything about this. I'm the first person they've ever talked to who's talking about this. Bullshit. There's 300 of us. At least 260 people are probably calling in who haven't got their cars built yet. What's going on with my car? They're lying and saying that I'm the first one that they talk to. And you know whose department they want to transfer me to? Which I was fine with it. Wendy Miller's. You have to talk to the GM Corvette ordering department. That's Wendy Miller. I tried to call there. I got diverted to back to customer support. 800-222-1020. That's supposed to get you to the department that leads to Wendy Miller, and they divert me back to customer support. Wendy Miller won't pick up. So yeah, if you have a 01 on order, understand you need to get it in writing that General Motors is the one changing it, because you have a breach of contract case. You have General Motors should be at minimum fixing the price. General Motors should also be at minimum producing the car with the wall of buttons. General Motors should be at minimum, if they're going to produce the car as 2026, it should still be built immediately after they do the changeover to 2026, not next spring. I mean, there's serious lawsuits here, guys. The cars have different values. People might have put big money over sticker down on a car, knowing, locked in with the dealership at big money over sticker, knowing that these were going to be the first cars and that the 2026s were going to be a half a year away yet, because there's big changes coming that have to be validated yet, the bigger brakes that they're doing at the Nürburgring right now. These cars have a value to them, guys, the 2025s, and they're more rare. There's a value to these cars. And GM thinks that they can just breach that contract without even putting it in writing, playing a game through Keith Cornett and Justin. If this doesn't prove to you that these guys are GM puppets and that they aren't part of GM's master plan to manipulate and deceive you guys, I don't know what is. See ya.